welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another Hong Kong content review, diving back into the wonderful world of the Wong Kar-Wai series. We're at number 6 in his filmography there, which is Happy Together, released in 1997. A very significant film for obviously mentions in terms of the handover that happened within mainland China and this very uncertain future that Hong Kong was going through during that time. I've explored this kind of theme quite a few times now with a lot of the movies that I have checked out, with the kind of Joe To films and some of the Ring Lam movies. So it's definitely been a good, interesting kind of talking point, and having different directors putting their 2 cents into that subject matter, and to do movies that are very risky, experimental, and really kind of pushing the envelope of what great storytelling can do with great characters, and just great filmmaking in general. And this one is no different whatsoever.
Scream, bury your doubts and fall asleep, for neither ever nor never. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Happy Together was released in 1997, of course, as mentioned. I will keep this one a bit more simple, a bit more kind of on the point. There isn't as much to say on this one compared to his previous 5 movies, and that's not a bad thing. And this basically features 2 main leading characters. We have Leslie Cheung, which is our kind of Wong Kar-Wai regular at this point, and we have Tony Lau, which is also our Wong Kar-Wai regular. Also going to be in the next feature one, which is In the Mood for Love, which is very, very exciting, and he's also appeared in a few other Wong Kar-Wai movies throughout his filmography. And basically this is a love story, gay love story kind of drama about 2 characters that basically are in a relationship, quite a toxic relationship, and they're in a foreign land, they're in Italy, and they are just trying to work it out, and they are going through the daily struggles of being in a relationship, and the ideas of loneliness and the ideas of being disconnected to someone, or potentially your soulmate, and how these 2 characters are basically kind of fallen in love with each other. They've gone off to a foreign land, and they've kind of got themselves in a bit of a situation. They've kind of had this idea of their breaking up and getting back together, and they're sort of not right for each other in the sense they love each other, they care about each other. There's some good kind of connections they have, especially with Tony Long holding onto the lamp, and this idea of the waterfalls and being this very specific waterfall he wants to see, but he can't, because they've run out of money, they've run out of resources, and they want to get back to Hong Kong. They can't, because they can't afford it. And it's a very interesting kind of idea of this. Tony Long's character is someone who's very much more head smart. He's a lot more kind of serious. He's a lot more kind of reality based in the sense, and he gets a job, and you see a few different jobs he has throughout the movie, going from kind of like this chef to kind of like a factory, kind of meat factory kind of worker, and I think some sort of hostess at this kind of club. And he's someone who's just trying to gather up money to go back to Hong Kong, because he doesn't have any money left, and he's just trying to maintain apartments there as well. So, but these idea of both of these characters escaping from Hong Kong, where it currently is at the moment. So 1997 Hong Kong, obviously big change, lots of takeover, uncertain future, definitely a lot of the themes that we're seeing throughout a lot of these kind of Hong Kong movies, and this idea of escapism, and most of the film being set within Italy, having Italy-based actors, and having a foreign landscape, and and being alien not only within yourself, within the subject matter and the themes of the film, being a gay love story, but also this idea of not being connected with anything in terms of the landscape or location. So the actual landscape and locations, and the scenery and the street setting, nighttime life, the black and white scenes versus the apartments, is very much a character in itself, and it's a reflection of the inside and outside of what these 2 characters are going through. And being the fact that Leslie Cheung's character is someone who's a bit more wild, he's a bit more kind of out there. He's just kind of not really caring about what anyone thinks, and he's just kind of getting himself into trouble, and he's kind of taking advantage of Tony Long's character, and he gets himself in a bit of a situation later on. he has to look after. Tony Leung's character has to look after Leslie Cheung's character because he's got serious injuries, and he's constantly toying and playing games, being jealous and going through his stuff. And again, it's constantly this cycle of kind of get back together, break up, get back together, break up, and it's just a really depressing movie from start to finish. It's not particularly a straightforward structure. It's a very non-linear structure. It feels very much like a mood piece. It feels like, you know, a time and a moment, a mood. It doesn't have a real specific kind of timeline. It just, we know this has happened within, I think, about a year or so, maybe potentially, in terms of how the film takes place between start and finish. If I had to guess, we see different points in their kind of lives, and it's, you know, done in a very non-linear structure, and we get just kind of internal monologues. We get very quiet kind of scenery, kind of scenes. We have small moments of kind of dialogue, you know, with these two characters trying to embrace who they are and be accepted for who they are, you know, within that kind of why they're running away from Hong Kong, why they have run away, and this uncertain future. We don't know where these characters are really going to end up or what they're going to do, and even by the end of the film, it's still kind of uncertain of, you know, are we going to see these characters again? That's very Wong Kar-Wai's kind of classic fashion within previous movies of same, especially Chungking Express. Now, not knowing about some of the outcomes of some of these characters' kind of journeys, but just being in the moment and, you know, slice of life kind of thing. And it's interesting that this film is a category 3 based on just the fact it's a gay love story drama. That's pretty shocking to me. Obviously back then very controversial, not many of these types of films come out. Also very interesting as well, just based on the category 3 documentary that I watched, that Leslie Cheung actually was a closeted kind of gay man in real life, and this was his kind of come out movie in a sense. That's pretty interesting, that's pretty bold, and, you know, pretty wild for him to kind of put himself out there for this type of movie, for an artistic kind of expression, for his kind of internal struggle versus kind of like his professional struggle, and make a movie that's so kind of down to earth and so real and so raw. It's a very uncomfortable experience from start to finish. It's not a film that you're really going to want to jump back on and enjoy. It's a very different type of depressing compared to Being Wild or some of these other films we have seen so far in this collection. This is a lot more kind of, you know, upfront, and it doesn't play any kind of, you know, any fancy kind of work in a sense. It's very simple within its cinematography. It's very stylized. It has a lot of different kind of, you know, lenses and different types of black and whites, and it plays upon different types of visual cues and the nighttime life, the daytime. The Hong Kong scenery is brilliant, and how it looks, the travelling, you know, going from place to place. It has a really good landscape and good kind of focus of it. It feels like a very much like a wild kind of, you know, project kind of thing, and, you know, two people just going to a foreign place and just make a movie. That's what it feels like to me. It feels very kind of a lot more improv, a lot more improvisation. I've gone into some of the kind of the scenery, gone into some of the kind of the character reactions, but it has nice gentle moments. It has really kind of bittersweet moments with them dancing and, you know, them kind of falling out, getting arguing, them being happy, having, you know, moments of kind of joy. There's another side character that comes into it that also has a bit of a connection with Tony Leung's character, and he's on a bit of a kind of a journey himself. He's someone who's also stuck in Italy making some money, and he's just curious. He's a curious person, and, you know, we don't know really what his end of his journey is going to be as well, but it's just a moment of life, a character that we meet, and he moves on, and that's it. The film is incredibly simple within its kind of execution, in the sense of it's just a you know, a love story between two characters that really shouldn't be together, and it's difficult to fall in love with someone that you really shouldn't be with. But it challenges you yet again as an audience member. It puts you in a vulnerable situation. It puts you in an emotional state that's not going to be for everyone. It's not going to work for everyone. It's definitely going to challenge you a little bit, even more so compared to his previous movies. But if you're with the Wong Kar-Wai experience, if you're with that journey, and you like what you see, this one definitely won't be no different. It's going to be a bit more harder digestible wise compared to some of the others, but I think it's a very strong film, and I think it's very significant, not only to the 1927 kind of handout, but also an interesting kind of point to category 3, how wild it is just based on the subject matter, and great performances, great direction, great visual kind of style, just a great movie all around. So Happy Together, absolutely brilliant. Love the music as well in the film, really appropriate, especially the track Happy Together at the end, very appropriate. But yeah, absolutely recommend Happy Together, part of the Wong Kar-Wai box set. Definitely going to be your most challenging film, I think, out of the ones I've seen so far, but definitely recommended nonetheless. So there you go, guys. Been my thoughts and opinions on Happy Together. What are your thoughts and opinions, guys? Please comment down below. What are your thoughts and opinions on the next two movies, which is the last two on the set, which is In the Mood for Love and 2046, which I'm very, very excited to check out. In the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews.